It's Sunday, April 22nd. Where the hell is this month gone? And it's Guy's Daily Drive. It is Sunday, April 22nd, as I said in the opening, so I'm not sure why I'm saying it now. And I am on my way to Costco because I have discovered something that is really, really delicious. And it's these frozen Japanese ramen chicken vegetable things. I can't even tell you who makes it. It's relatively low in calories. Of course, it's like freaking loaded with salt, but they're really quite tasty, and I like them. So the only place I can seem to find them is Costco. So that's why I'm going over there. But my choice in meals for lunch at work is not what this video is about. People who have been watching these videos for any length of time know that I am obsessed with audio. I really am. And I change my recording setup for podcasts quite often, and it's weird because as much as I obsess over audio for the podcast and the Mac to the Future livecast, I don't think about it at all in relation to Guy's Daily Drive. You know, I'm recording this directly off the iPod Touch that I use to record the video, and I always think, yeah, it's good enough. What's the big deal? You know, but then I sit behind the desk and like, oh, well, I need this microphone, and I need this preamp, and I need this, and I need that, and I need these special cables, and blah, 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 and I'm going to change the whole way I record the podcast again. I don't know, it's just that weird contrast between, you know, how much I obsess on it for the podcast and for the live cast, and how I don't think about it at all for Guy's Daily Drive. It's just, it's weird. But just picked up a new toy. It's the Behringer UMC404HD. Now, what this is it's a 4-input audio interface, USB audio interface. And not only does it have 4 combo XLR 1/4 inch or 6.3 millimeter, depending on how you look at those things. Not only does it have 4 of those inputs via USB, actually it has 4 analog outputs as well, but via USB you have 4 mono outputs, which is great because, you know, that way you can record everything on separate tracks. But what makes this device different from something like in my mobile podcasting kit, I have a PreSonus 44 VSL, which is a very, very similar device. It does exactly the same thing. You've got 4 combo inputs, you have 4 analog outputs, and you have 4 digital outputs. The difference between these two devices is twofold. The first difference is price. The 44 VSL, and I'm not even sure they sell it anymore, sold for between $200 and $250. And the preamps in it were okay. You know, not too bad. The Behringer UMC404HD sells for between $90 and $100, so half the price or less. And it uses Midas preamps. Now, people who know audio would argue that, these aren't the real Midas preamps, that these are preamps that have a similar signature to the Midas preamps that you'll see in some of the high-end audio gear that has the Midas name on it, which coincidentally enough was bought by Behringer. I honestly don't care. All I know is that these preamps sound really, really good, and they seem to have a lot more gain, clean gain per input than the PreSonus device does. I mean, part of the reason why I got those Fed heads to go along with the microphones and everything else that I have in the mobile kit was because PreSonus preamps were a little wimpy and, didn't get a whole lot of signal out of them without having to crank it so high that I was starting to pick up a lot of noise. Well, after the UMC404, the Behringer unit showed up Friday, plugged it all in, because I had it's a Behringer X1204 Xenix mixer. And it was, I've had this for a year and a half, 2 years, and it also works very well. But the preamps with that are also kind of wimpy, which is why with the Heil PR40 dynamic microphone that I use in that setup, I connected that to a cloud lifter, which is also a small preamp box. It's kind of like the Fed head and a few other devices. Oh, dude, you had a stop sign, dude. Jerk. So, I love traffic in this area. So when I connected the Heil and the cloud lifter to the input of the UMC404, I was very pleasantly surprised at how good it sounded. Now, you can't sculpt the sound. You don't have the high, mid, and low range frequency adjusts that you do in mixers on an audio interface. But that wasn't really all that important, and I'll tell you why in probably a different video. I just want to talk about the interfaces today. But it's, having those physical knobs to adjust high, mid-range, and low frequencies is not that big a deal. It's really not. I mean, there are ways around it. But this UMC404 sounds really, really good. And it's relatively inexpensive. One of the things that I did, I've done 2 tests with the 404. One, actually, I did them both with Brian Monroe, and thank you, Brian, for coming on with me for like over an hour each time. That's pretty generous to give that much of your time to something that's not even really officially anything. But waiting for a parking space. So, connected it all up, and I'm using audio hijack and loopback for all of my interconnections, and it works really, really well too. I'm impressed. So, got all that to work, all the interconnections between VoIP services and the livecast software and everything else. So that worked really well. But then, as just kind of a test, I took a Behringer XM8500 microphone, which is also a dynamic microphone, and it's like $20. You can pick these up for like $20. It kind of looks like the Shure SM58s. But being a dynamic microphone, it also needs some, pretty decent amount of gain. But just to try it, I plugged that into a different port on the interface. Still had the Heil hooked up to port 1, hooked this into port 2. Made some swap arounds in the software so I could hear it. Turn it on and it's adjusted the gain, and it sounded great. $20 microphone. Now, did it sound as good as the $350 Heil? No. But I didn't expect it to. But what blew me away was just how well it did sound. How well a $20 microphone into a $90 to $100 USB interface with some decent preamps, just how well that sounded. So, if you're starting out in podcasting and you are looking at equipment, I can highly, highly recommend the Behringer UMC404HD and the Behringer XM8500 microphones. So essentially for like $100 to $120, you've got everything you need on the analog side of it to record a podcast. Now, how you do it from there is up to you. But it sounds great. I'm actually considering rejiggering my mobile setup to use the Behringer unit instead of the PreSonus unit. And that's too bad because I paid pretty good money for that PreSonus unit. And I probably won't get that back. I can't see how I would. But that would be my advice, is start off with, you wouldn't even really need the 404. If it's just you or just you and another person, you could get the UMC404HD, which is basically the same thing minus 2 of the XLR inputs. I think that's like $70 to $80. So that and 2 microphones, and you're still at $110, $120, 2 microphones, interface, and you're all good to go. Anyway, that's all I got for today. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can reach me at guy@mymac.com, probably. You can also reach me, guy@mttfgo.com. You can find me on the MyMac Podcast with Gazmaz each week. You can find me on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. on the Mac to the Future livecast that I do with Warren Sklar. And, of course, Guy's Daily Drive. This July of 2018, there's a great event coming up, the MacStock Conference and Expo, for right now, for $189 with the coupon code MTTFBonus10, you have an entire weekend of fun and community at this event in Woodstock, Illinois, July 21st and 22nd. And it's going to be great. I've been to all 3 of the ones that they've done so far. And I hope it keeps going for a really, really long time. So that's it. Thanks for joining me. This is Guy's Daily Drive, and I'll catch you next time while I go into this big-ass Costco.